My name is Sanjay Nadaraja. I'm a quality consultant at Inglasia Pharma Solutions. This introductory training is on good distribution practices, and it's applicable specifically to warehouse staff and drivers that work in freight forwarding of medicinal products. What is the point of good distribution practices? In this training session, we look at the increased demand for moving medicines globally and what we know has gone wrong when handling medicines in the supply chain, giving some real examples of what has happened during storage and transportation. And then we look at what can I do to help the patient. So each and every one of us that works in the supply chain, whether that be in a warehouse or drivers driving products from A to B, we need to make them aware of what quality is about. And we then look at putting this to practice. We go through some real life examples and take you through some scenarios that will help you better understand and accept what your responsibilities are in the supply chain and how you can ensure quality in the work that you do. Over recent years, there's been an increased demand for moving medicines globally. Global manufacturing has spread from one part of the world to another, and the need to move products across the world as a result of that. The population is aging. We have far more people that are in their 70s, 80s now than there ever was before. And with this, there's more demand for medicines for keeping these patients in good health. And we've noticed this as well over the last 3-4 years, the incidences with COVID and how that has brought about the need to move vaccines across the globe. All of this has increased the demand for freight forwarders to be involved in moving medicines for the healthcare sector. And as more and more of these companies come on board to offer their services to the pharmaceutical and biotech industry, there's a need to train the warehouse staff and the drivers to understand what quality is about when handling medicines. And I start by asking the question, what is in the box? Because a lot of us that work in logistics move about a brown box without knowing necessarily what is in there. So whether it be boxes of cakes, boxes of shoes, or boxes of medicines, for people that actually move these products physically, they don't really know how sensitive medicines are. Now, medicines, as we know, are there to save lives, improve lives, and make people feel better. And we need to play a part in that in the supply chain to ensure that that is maintained. Because what we do and how we handle the product can actually impact on the patient life, can actually affect their improvement in their health, and can prevent patients from getting better. It may come as a surprise to you, but what we do in the supply chain is equally as important as what people do in the manufacturing of medicines. Medicines are truly sensitive. They're sensitive to temperature, they're sensitive to light, and also sensitive to how we handle it. There are certain types of medicines that are very sensitive to temperature. It's purely in the nature how it's made. It's made in such a way that it's manufactured under controlled temperature conditions. Now, once the product has been manufactured and then enters the supply chain, it still needs to be maintained at those temperatures. The reason being that that medicine, if it's not handled in those temperature conditions, will degrade, will change its characteristics and become ineffective and will not be able to cure the patient of their symptoms. So remember, when you handle medicines, make sure that the packaging on the outside on those brown boxes make it very clear about the storage temperature that should be maintained for that product. And we need to place emphasis on looking for that information on the temperature in which the product should be stored and make sure the surroundings are allowing the product to be held in those temperature conditions. Now, light is another factor. if the product is exposed to light for any length of time, it can actually degrade the product as well. So look out on the box, on the outside, on the labeling about product sensitivity to light, and ensure that the product is stored in a dark place if that's required. A lot of issues that we also find are related to manual handling, where people are using excessive force when handling products, throwing boxes from one person to another, or driving forklift trucks into boxes. So manual handling is the result of many damages to medicinal products. And as a result of this, the product potentially will not be going to the patient. Just imagine that one of the products that you're handling in your supply chain is a life-saving medicinal product, and it's the only stock that's available. Nothing else has been manufactured and available. So if what you're handling gets damaged and needs to get to the patient to save their life, how will that patient get their medication if there's no other products out there at that time? So what you've done, you potentially harm the patient by having damaged that product because they wouldn't be able to receive it now. Medicines are also high value, and as a result of that, they're prone to theft. In your supply chain, ensure that there's security every step of the way. In terms of drivers, when you're taking shipment from one location to another location, make sure the trailer is sealed or locked in some way, and that it's not opened until it reaches the end destination. If loads are being consolidated, then that would pose a different challenge. And in those situations, look at alternative measures in terms of security and how to ensure that the product at any point is not taken away from your control. And how would you have that oversight? Make sure there are processes in place there to ensure that the security of the medicines are maintained in your supply chain. Here we have some examples of where things have gone wrong in the warehouse, where movement of product in and out of the warehouse has resulted in certain deviations. As you can see in this picture here, there's a packaging on a pallet and it's damaged. Very common. And here we can see another damage, perhaps a forklift truck has gone in and actually punctured the packaging. And again, another picture of something where this has gone wrong. So these are real incidences that are commonly seen in warehouses where healthcare products are handled. And here we have another example here of a damage on the packaging on the outside. Now, when you see this, we just don't know what's happened on the inside. It could be glass vials of drug substance, which it could have gone into, and it could have damaged it, and perhaps damaging the vials. The liquid could have seeped out and then damaged the packs of other products, and this could mean that some of this could not be used. Another example of a damage. And as you can see here, the thermal blanket product should be stored at 15 to 25. And you can here see there's a damage on the bottom right, where again looks like a pallet has a forklift truck has gone in into the packaging. Now, one of the kind of examples of instances we have seen during transportation, during importing and exporting of medicines, whilst it's on the move. This is an example of where product was unloaded from the trailer and left outside before being moved into the warehouse. It was put in on the tarmac where there was no shelter, and it was a wet day, and the packaging has got wet. Here we can see the trailer's not sealed, and as a result, there have been people that have entered the trailer while it was on move from point A to point B, and people have been able to get into the trailer, and as a result, it's caused damage to product, potentially causing millions of pounds worth of write-off of medicines. And you can see in this example where the trailer hadn't been packaged, the products hadn't been packaged correctly and put into the trailer. They had basically on transit, the boxes had come apart and fallen, and potentially there were some damages of vials within the trailer. And we also see during transportation that falsified products can enter through illegal channels. And again, this is where the emphasis on security and making sure that there are processes in place to ensure that we prevent counterfeits entering into your supply chain. Now, this is a question that we need to ask ourselves: is how do I look after the medicines that I receive? Because any of us can take the medicines that we handle in the supply chain, whether you're a warehouse operative or a driver, you or your family members will receive medicines that you will take at some point. And how would you want to receive that medicine? Would you want to make sure that it's in the perfect condition for you to take? I would like to give an example here of you perhaps going into a supermarket and going to a shelf, and you find that there's a bottle of milk there that is looking a bit turbid, like it's not fresh milk, and then there's a bottle there which is a fresh milk. So when you see the two bottles, which one would you take? I'm sure that you will say you'll take the bottle that looks like it's fresh milk and not milk that's gone off. And likewise, if you get to go down to a shelf where they sell cereal, and you find that there's one packet of cereal that's nicely sealed and no damage to it, but then there's another pack next to it that's got a punctured hole on the side, or the top of the packaging is open, which one of those two would you take? I'm sure you'd go for the fully sealed and undamaged pack. So as you can see, when we look at what we want it to be perfect, and we don't want it to have any damages. Likewise, if you're a patient and you're receiving medicine, you'd want that to be the same for the medication you take as well. So remember that when you're in your supply chain and you're doing the work of moving products within the warehouse, or whether that be moving products from A to B across the world, then think about how you'd want your medicines to be received by yourself, and handle that product with care. So you'd expect the quality of the product, expect the quality of the service in terms of dealing with any issues that arise, and how quickly would you resolve those to make sure that the customer is satisfied just as you would be to receive that medication. And we also expect on-time delivery, because medicines, if we don't deliver it on time, could also have an adverse impact on the patient. For example, if the patient is on a life-saving medication and they need to receive the medication at a certain time point, and if we delay delivering it on that time point, it could impact on that patient's health adversely. And we trust who we buy from. So when we go and pick up our medicine from the pharmacy, we ensure that the medicine is safe and that we are okay to take it. However, do we know what's happened beyond the pharmacy in terms of the medicines getting to the pharmacy, from going from manufacturer to warehouse across the world, to warehouse to the pharmacy, and to get to you? Do you know what happened? So if you're in that supply chain, make sure that you give the peace of mind to that end patient, that could be you, that the product was handled safely and to the right quality standards. What can I do to help the patient? Understand the product you're moving and storing. So wherever possible, be very proactive to understand what types of medicines you're handling in your supply chain. What are the sensitive characteristics of it? What's the temperature in which it be stored at? Should be stored away from light? Should it be stored in secure packaging? Should the box be clearly labeled? What are the temperature requirements? What are the special handling requirements? Is it cytotoxic? Is it fragile? And what's the product value? Is it at risk of theft? People at the appropriate level should have this understanding so they know best how to package the product and how to move it across the globe. And also understand the urgency of delivery because some medicines are life-saving and need to be with a patient at a certain time point. Also, work as a team to identify the issues and the solutions. Do not try and figure things out yourself because no one person knows everything. It's a combined effort, it's a team effort. People must get together to try and find a solution on the best way to deal with a problem that they might face. Even if you are part of a supply chain where you are one part of the jigsaw, make sure you involve others as well to get a better picture of what has gone wrong, to then be able to find the best solution to move that product forward to the end patient. And take ownership of your actions. Each of us are responsible for our areas. We are the experts in what we do. We know what's happened and we know what's caused that to happen. Do not be ashamed or shy to own up and explain if there are challenges in the work environment and surface them. Because if we don't, the problem will keep repeating itself and we won't get to that end solution. So take ownership in your own hands and deal with the issue and involve the right people to get to that right solution. And the way we achieve this is by having certain key processes in place. For example, complaints handling, because we're always going to be receiving complaints. Nothing is ever perfect in the day-to-day life. We will always find situations where things can go wrong. So we need to have a complaints process where we document what has happened, investigate it, and find a solution to move forward. And deviations are where things go wrong internally within our own business. For example, we're moving a product within the warehouse and we get a forklift truck into the product and it causes damage. That's a deviation because this is not normal practice. We don't want to be doing this. So when these things happen, we need to document this and investigate what caused this problem to occur. And then once we've identified what's gone wrong, we then need to find solutions to prevent this from reoccurring and also finding that immediate solution for it. And that's where we should have a formal process called CAPA, which is corrective action, preventive action. And the next step along this path would be to change something that's causing these issues to perhaps reoccur. And that's following a formal process called change control, where we again document how we make this change. And as I mentioned a few minutes back, that all of these activities need to be done as a team, where possible, involve other departments, other people to find the best solution and to ensure that we've not missed anything in the process of documenting these activities. And finally, this is risk management, very commonly used in the supply chain over recent years. It's a good way to find ways of mitigating risks that we might foresee and putting controls in place to reduce those risks that we may have. There's again a process in place for this where people need to work cross-functionally and as a team to find the risks and to find mitigating steps to reduce the risks within that supply chain. What I've gone through now is just to give you an overview of good distribution practices and its place within freight forwarding and the supply chain globally, and how it would apply to warehouse staff and drivers. This training is something that we deliver on a one-day basis, where we will actually run a workshop going through the examples of complaints, deviations, change controls, CAPAs, and risk management to help the warehouse staff and drivers get a better appreciation and understanding for why they need to be involved in supporting with some of these quality requirements to better own their responsibilities and to appreciate the sensitivity of the medicinal products that they handle in the supply chain. So this is to be continued if you'd be interested to have more of an extensive training in this topic. If you have an interest and would like to inquire further about what we can offer, please reach out to us at info@inglasia.com. Thank you.